Well, hello, you are watching Gmodism and we're back into From the Depth. This time we shall start our little series of building a beautiful large vessel for Captain Scoobyrocks, Gmodism, who naturally is a commissioned officer in the army of Gmodism. And the officers in the army of Gmodism are super generous, very awesome people who can and are willing to support this channel financially via Patreon. You can of course be one of them, check in the description. You might have seen that we built the super battle carrier for Admiral's G Canyon. Well, that one is basically finished, may need add some finishing touches, but it's, finishing fixes rather. But that's done, so we're moving on to the next project. We made a fly diving fish for Asteria, Lieutenant Asteria, and next in line by, well, order of pledging, we have Captain Scoobyrocks. So I just wanna give out a huge thanks to Captain Scoobyrocks for supporting the channel and all our supporters, both from the commissioned officers, Army of Gmodism, and the YouTube members. It really helps so much. So special thanks, of course, to Scoobyrocks. This project is for you. And with this little opening, we should talk about what are we making. God, I can't speak today. Anyways. So, we discussed a little bit with Scoobyrocks, and this is the footprint of the ship, the earliest stages. So you can see I have a floaty but strong little base with some integrated EMP resilience, so that the EMP torpedoes can, leach up and get sucked up in those beams there. So basically, the ship class we're going to make is a Battlecruiser. And you can see this is a little bit unusual, but we decided to make this ship symmetrical. Most ships are asymmetrical. I think it's, yeah, because this one is like one block here, one block here. You can see there is no middle block, which is kind of weird. And why did we do it like this? Well, after listening to what Captain Scoobyrocks wants, it became very clear to me that whatever we're making has to be a one-sider. We will have a circling ship, and since one of the wishes for this build was that the ship should be material and power efficient. And if we're gonna make an efficient ship that fights with one of the sides, one of the broadsides facing the enemies, you should always, always, always make a one-sider. There is almost no time you would not want that, basically. It's just better, objectively. That means we can have skimpy armor on one side and really thick armor on the other side. And that means that the turrets will not be in the exact middle of the ship. Well, on this symmetrical build, we can't even have them in the middle. Instead, the turrets will be a little bit on the side of the ship, so that we can have thick armor on the side facing the enemies. Much more efficient that way. I don't know why we spawned below the water, but this is the next iteration of the ship. You can see we have started with a symmetrical armor, the thickness on both of the sides, just to get the shape of it, and we'll thicken it up and beef it up a little bit later. In any case, what it was basically supposed to be that Captain Scoobyrocks wanted it to have APS guns mostly and some large missiles. So we're going to try and implement both main APS guns and also some large missiles. Then we have, it should also have some strong anti-torpedo defenses, and that's best done with anti-torpedo torpedoes, which we're going to add in much later stages. It should also have a LAM system and some CWIS after Scoobyrocks' captain's wishes. Our captain also wanted to make the ship walkable, so that we can walk through it. And, it will be apparent later that, for a battlecruiser that's gonna be efficient, we want it to be fast and not too large, There will not be a lot space of interiors, but it should be walkable through. So we're going to make it walkable through, always leave a little space so that we can walk from the bow to the stern of the ship. Or ship's ass. We had a discussion about that in Discord and everyone agreed that we call it the ship's ass. So there we have it. Or maybe that's not a completely accurate representation of what was said. But anyways, let us look at the next iteration of this Battlecruiser. So, basically, the end price tag of this ship should be around 10 the times what it is now. The end cost should be around 700k, I think, or that's the plan at least, to make it ish a 700k ship. So here we can see we added some more armor. I decided to still go with some symmetrical designs for this part. And what we basically have here, I can strip the armor a little bit for you. Here we have the main bulk, it's just 2 meters of metal, pretty standard. And we're backing this up with wooden beam slopes. And this, if this is unfamiliar with you, is of course something we call spall lining. Inside of this spall lining we have poles out of alloy, and the alloy poles are here inside because we want the metal to be on the outside because the alloy takes so much less beating. But I noted some problems with the floatiness, so I made this interior armor be lighter and more floaty so that we need to spend less power on making this stay afloat. And these are beams as well. No, these are poles, I mean. Because I imagine that the fragments spawning from the wooden here, if we get hit by a HESH or heat shell, they will come in an angle and they will hit this beam at a larger angle, more like a, what is it called? More big angle, acute angle? Yes, a more acute angle than they would be if they were hitting a alloy beam. If an alloy beam, the angle would be more blunt. Now I got my words back. And that would mean that the fragments would deal more effective damage. So if we look in here we can see we have an alloy floor just to keep it afloat. And under it we have a 2 meter space of air. And this airspace is of course for floatiness, but also to keep heat missiles or shaped charge missiles and other stuff coming from below's explosion to be a little bit further away from the bottom of the ships, because at the bottom we will have the turrets. And here we have the same bottom as before, so it's just layer wood, metal, 2 meters of air and alloy, and that should be okay for most torpedoes coming from below. So let us check the next iteration of this little build. And here we can see the next little iteration. I've beefed it up kind of a large bit. I just continued building with the symmetry plane in the middle here. Like, you have to click another time, like this. So that's the only reason it looks like this. I just built with symmetry planes, and then we'll do the, make the armor not the same on both sides later in the building process when we have added the turrets, because there is no, we might as well build symmetrical before we know how the end results will be, because there might be a lot of changes and stuff going on here. These are some propellers here on the outside, and then we have some propellers hidden here on the inside, and that has to be insulated from the air, or make it airtight here and here a little bit later, because otherwise we'll have problems with the propellers if we suck out the water underneath, you know. In any case, let me show you what's happening here. What are these beefing up here on the sides? Well, it's quite beefy, if you can see. I've added some cool lines, trying to match some of the design wishes that Captain Scoobyrocks wanted. And we can just cut out here, we can see we have 1 meter of metal. And then we have some metal poles going on here. That's what we added so far. And behind that, we actually have metal slopes like that. So we're really adding in much more air in the sides of the armor here, just to once again have the spalls spawn in weird angles here on the beams to make them do less damage. And if they even go through that, there is another air gap for AoG shells. This is a large ship, but since the area for putting the really important juicy bits is kind of compact, everything important will be roughly at the ish similar spaces, because we're trying to make it efficient and we're trying to make the profile not too large, to not make it a target. Because of that, we are really trying to adapt it to not get easily sniped by armor-piercing, high explosive, armor-piercing frag, or armor-piercing EMP and stuff like that. And of course, AP secondary charges. So that's kind of how the armor setup looks like right now. It's pretty heavy, but it works very well. Or I hope it does. And there we have the next iteration of the ship. And the last little model we will look at this time for this little episode. This is just a little starting episode where we have been shaping out the rough shape of the ship and the hull and stuff like that. And in this iteration we have added turret wells. Indeed, the turret wells needs to withstand quite of a beating, and this is a place where it's valid to use heavy armor. Like, heavy armor for your main hull is not a valid use of heavy armor in my book, but here I think it works absolutely fine. Yeah, so here we have some like poles of heavy armor. Most likely, I think I actually replaced this surface here of heavy armor with something else later, which will be in the next video, because I don't want to keep the entire process into one little video, or one long video rather. I want to make it a little exciting series, so that we can talk about how this thing is developing, and that I also have time to to build the other processes. Yeah, we have some EMP searches in the front here too. We can see that the bed the turrets are standing on is not alloy. They are sunk down a little bit, and they are indeed this heavy armor beams, and they are actually resting kind of on the bottom here. We have hollowed out some parts here, but here they are not. We just replaced and patched here with metal beams to bring the turrets lower, because I have actually designed a turret that's really good for, or I specially built a turret to be used on this ship. And when I've gone through this hull, we will look a little bit at what that turret looks like. You might have seen it in some stream too. I decided that this area of the armor should be made lighter. This is, however, not done yet. Will be done next episode. The progress for the next episode is actually already made, by the way. So yeah, I have secretly been building this a little bit along, building the super battle carrier, because that was such a large project. It was fun to do some other things in between too. But of course, that had to be finished, and Asteria's fly diving fish thing, which you can see in another video too, had to be made first, because it's in order of pledging, of course. Yeah, but I think that's the progress here. That's how I set it up so far. So let's spawn the turret that I have developed and curtailed to this ship. And I'm going to show you a little other turret I also have crafted especially for this ship. And of course I will use those turrets a lot on future projects and stuff like that, but I needed a turret with some specific requirements, so I made it for this project. Say hello to the Gmodism Industries Type N APS autocannon T7 X12. This is the main gun turret we have developed for this, and let me see here, how much does it cost? It costs 27,000, so almost 30,000 per turret. Not super expensive, but pretty efficient, pretty effective. So what do we have here? We have a rail-assisted APS cannon, autocannon to be precise. And if we open it up here, you can, or make it small, you can see here it's a single firing piece design, pretty well protected with heavy armor in the top. It's not overusing heavy armor, it uses on the top around the firing piece, not trying to have a too big footprint. We have some surge protectors going on there. And the special little thing with this turret is that it has 4 super adapted shells. One here, integrated into the turret, one there, and one above there, and one above there. So it will get like a perfect mix of the curtailed shells I decided per like, it shoots them in rapid succession. And it uses the 3-meter outloaders with a double clip Tetris going all the way down, so pretty efficient. And also, of course, it has ejectors and some rails going on there. So I'm pretty happy with this design. It's I haven't made so many autocannon designs. But I like the sound of it. It is, let's see here, let me show you some stats. It's a 200mm autocannon with 42 RPM. 42 is the answer. Shell speed is 1,200 meters per second. Let's just spawn something random for fun. I don't know how good detection we have, how good we can see it. But the turret itself is decently accurate. Wow. And now I'm trying to remember on the top of my head exactly what things we have to throw at the enemy. But it's one HESH shell, as you saw there. One of them are HESHes. The other shell is a heat shell, like you saw there. And, it comes in a random order, so it, never know. And one that you saw there was probably a disruptor conduit. So it's basically an EMP shell. It kind of works a little bit like armor-piercing EMP, but it is made to make the, to make eventual shields weakened for other weapons too. And it does more penetrating damage than anything like else. And it's, of course, we're shooting at a very thin target here. So to shoot at something like this, only high explosives would probably be a wiser shell to use. But we can actually look a little bit here what shells we got in detail. Let's see if we can find them all. So here we have this one. This is an armor-piercing... Oh yeah, this is an armor-piercing frag EMP. So it does both frag and EMP damage. They all have base bleeders to gain some extra penetration, so it makes them a little bit less accurate, but yeah. Here we have a squash head. And above here we have a... This is the disruptor conduit. It actually deals kind of a lot of EMP and penetrative damage too. And here we have a heat. And they all have emergency ejection defuses, of course, because otherwise this would be a powder keg. Yeah, but it shoot pretty quick shells, so they're very, very strong like that. And the other little thing I developed, there are some other things that we're going to make too, but another thing I have already, come on now, oh yeah, there we have it, that I already made is the Army of Gmodism 1337 millimeters cast brass Mark 1 cram, and it's lead millimeters. If you don't know what that is, you're probably very young. So lead millimeters, very nice. Here you can see it is indeed that millimeters, and this is a little armor piercing frag high explosive shell. Let's see here. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward like that. It's a small cannon, so What fuse we chose is time from first impact, so it does some penetrative damage if it gets into there, and then explodes. And the angle we chose for this one is 100 degrees. So it is a replacement of my golem turret, which has been deleted. It was a very good. It's a much more material efficient version of. Let's see here. Do I still have it, or did I delete it? I think, or no, it was called Point Blank or something like that. But it was an earlier turret I had, which used 2D Tetris, so it was much less efficient, but it was really small, so you could stack it kind of anywhere. Before I was thinking to add some diff guns to Captain Scoobyrocks' build, but Scoobyrocks doesn't like diff guns, so I removed them, and that's why I developed this thing, because our captain said that crams as secondary is much more to the captain's liking. Anyways, let us spawn a ship and a marauder just to test them out. God damn it, we'll probably miss at this range. Destroy enemy vehicles, because I set them up to not shoot at too long range, because that doesn't make any sense. There we go. Oh my god, the first volley is kind of really bad. But they shoot not too slowly. They have a reload time of 22.86, which is good. It's like good for this. Now this thing is doing all the heavy lifting here. Anyways, let's speed up and come on. There we go. Now we can slow down time. Thank you. So we can follow with the volley here to see what happens with the shot. Are we shooting a little bit too low? Yeah, we're aiming a little bit too low. But well, you can see them going in here, doing some explosions and stuff like that. Dealing some pretty good EMP damage as well. I kind of forgot they had a little bit of EMP too. Anyways, or do they actually? I think they might have that. Reconfigure. No, they don't. That was this gun. Well, anyways, there we have it. That's all for this little episode. So I hope I'll be seeing you in the next one. You should definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Well, check out this little series, and hopefully you'll see something. You'll enjoy the journey of constructing this Battlecruiser for Captain Scoobyrocks. And thanks a lot to Captain Scoobyrocks for supporting the channel every month. And if you also want to support the channel, check out the patreon.com/gmodism, and you'll see what's in it for you. This is your host Gmodism, and we're signing out.
Forget it. This is on. Bye.